Welcome to the Dr. Wyatt Show, where developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve. And following my tools is one path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, a licensed psychologist specializing in couples counseling. Remember, you can leave a voicemail for me with your marriage questions 24/7. Call 303-578-0618. Leave a voicemail, and I'll respond to it on the next Tuesday podcast episode. Also, be sure to follow me on social at Dr. Wyatt Fisher. And if you want to improve your communication, I have an app for that. Some of you are already using it. It's called Keep the Glow, KTG. This app is going to open up lines of communication on the most important things in your relationship. What makes you feel loved, what you desire, and all the things you don't like, the things that really hurt your feelings and bother you. It's going to open up communication on both of those realms, the good and the growth, on a regular basis, so that neither you and your partner are stuffing your feelings any longer. If you want to have a good marriage, it's all about growth. It's all about change. It's all about learning to give and receive feedback and then being teachable and doing something with that feedback. That's what creates hope. And this app will help you and your partner do exactly that. So download it wherever you get your apps. Keep the Glow, KTG. So today I'm going to respond back to 2 voicemails that I received. I'm going to play the voicemail, then I'll respond back with my thoughts. So here's the first one.
Hi, I had an email that I received from one of your podcasts that I think I signed up for about calling and leaving a voicemail about asking a question for your Tuesday podcast. So I'm trying to work with my wife more. We've been listening to a lot of your stuff, been reading through your book, and she wants me to communicate more. I feel like that I'm trying. She says she internalizes that communication, and internalizes her thoughts. Well, I express them outwardly more. So trying to communicate better with someone that says I don't communicate, but then I don't get the communication back that I feel like that she should be giving me. So kind of looking for your advice on what maybe I should do. Thank you. Bye.
So a couple of thoughts on this. You know, people use the word communication to mean all sorts of things. So couples will say, yeah, we need better communication. And then maybe they're referring to how they fight. Or a partner will say, yeah, I wish my partner would communicate better. And they're referring to, I wish my partner would share their feelings more. Or they'll say, yeah, I feel like, my partner doesn't communicate very well. And what they're really trying to say is that they don't empathize. So the word communication is very vague, it's very subjective. So the first thing I would say here is you have to sit down with your wife, if you haven't already, and really unpack, how is she defining communication? When she's saying to you, I want you to communicate more with me, you have to find out exactly what she's looking for. How is she defining that? And ask her to give you some examples. Like, what would it look like for me to communicate with you well? That's always a great question, because sometimes our partner doesn't know. They don't know what they're looking for. They can't quite put their finger on it. They can't quite describe what they're looking for concretely. And then that creates a dilemma, because if we don't know what they're looking for, we don't know what to work on. But the first step is asking your partner, please define for me communication. What kind of communication are you looking for from me? Are you wanting me to empathize with your feelings? Are you wanting me to respond better in conflict? Are you wanting me to volunteer more information from my days with my feelings? Ask her for examples. What would it look like for me to be an amazing communicator for you? And that should provide a lot of clarity. Now, the other side of this is you're feeling like she's not communicating well on the very areas that she's wanting you to communicate well on. So make this a two-way street. And that's actually the best, when both partners can latch on to what they both can be working on, so it's not just one-sided. So also talk to her about what you want to see better with your communication, because maybe you both have the same growth area, or maybe it's slightly different. But don't be scared to also tell her what you want to see her working on. And you can highlight the paradox. And you can say something like, on the one hand, I hear you saying you want me to communicate better this way, but on the other hand, I don't see you doing that. Help me understand how those two go together. That's a very gentle confrontation when you highlight the disparity. Don't say it with an attitude. Don't say it with any tone, but just really out of confusion, because maybe she doesn't realize that what she's asking, she's not providing, or maybe she's defining the words differently. Maybe she thinks she is providing it. But there is an element here of we want things to be fair. We want what our partners are requesting, we want to make sure they're doing as well. And that's just a good lesson for all of us. Like, make sure that whatever you're requesting, that you're also doing in your relationship so that it does feel fair. But that's where I would go. I would just really unpack this with her. How is she defining her terms? What does effective communication look like for her? And talk also about what it would look like for her to communicate better so that you're both working at this topic as a team to improve. Good question. Okay, here is the second question that came in.
Hi. So I've been listening to the podcast, and it's been very helpful. My partner and I have been together for 20 years, and we both love each other very much, but for some reason, we just fight very immaturely. We trigger each other. We do all the things that you say don't do during a fight, which is really childish. We see our kids doing it to each other, and then we're getting mad at them for doing the same things. We're not really leading by example. And every time I think we're making progress, my husband will say something summarizing the outcome of a recent conflict, and it's like, that's what you got out of it? Oh my gosh, we're so not on the same page at all. So there's a lot there to unpack, more than a voicemail can handle, but we just now stopped seeing a counselor because of a year seeing them. We're still not where we need to be on stable ground. So we're seeing this impact our kids, and we're not teaching them how to handle just conflict helpfully, and this isn't good for us to keep going like this at each other and basically not have anything left to care about, and we don't want that to happen. So, advice time. How do you get a relationship that's been together for 20 years and you've built up a lot of resentments and experiences and good times too, that's why you're still together, but you just can't stop doing those bad habits that lead to escalation, that lead to continual resentment and hurt feelings, and you just have to kind of move on because you're a family unit and you're a machine. You've got programs and school and work.
So several comments on this one. First of all, it can feel like that. And I'm sure a lot of you listening can relate, where you have this system in place. You have kids, you have programs, you have careers, you have bank accounts that are linked. You have all these things that are like this fine-tuned machine, and yet the marriage is going south. The marriage is going down the toilet. And then it can feel really hollow. Like on the outside, everything looks great, but on the inside, we're not doing well. And the only thing keeping us together is all these processes and these children and all these systems we've created, this life together. That's what's keeping us together. But we're not connecting well. We're not getting along very well. And it's like the bottom is falling out. And so that's a scary place to be. And it's a real desperate place to be. And I think a lot of couples are in that, where everything on the outside is looking great, but on the inside, everything is coming unglued. Your comment about we're seeing a counselor, we've been working with a counselor for a year and we're just not getting better. I don't know what kind of counseling theoretical orientation your counselor has, but that's a common critique for traditional counseling because most counseling is very touchy-feely and it's very vague, and you go there and the counselor will ask you about your week, and then they just listen, and then it's really just about sharing your feelings and trying to hear your partner's feelings, and inevitably, because there's no structure to it, it can erupt in a fight. And so it's really all about just trying to like unpack what you're feeling, but inevitably one person feels attacked, they get defensive. And so a lot of times that approach isn't very effective for counseling. Now, there is a time and place, don't get me wrong, for unpacking what we're feeling and learning how to open up and share what we're feeling. But because it's so loose, often it leads to one person feeling attacked, which leads to defensiveness. And then your counseling sessions just become fight sessions. So again, I don't know how your counseling sessions look, but I'm wondering if that's why you haven't found it to be very helpful. And this is why my counseling model and the model that my coaches follow is much different. So we're very focused on tools, and the sessions are very structured so that neither partner feels ganged up on, neither partner feels attacked, neither partner is getting defensive, and we're actually making progress because we have structure in place to keep things safe so that we can have those conversations and move forward and not just teach our clients, not just give them a fish, but teach them how to fish. So that's one option. So if you're feeling stuck, I would recommend working with one of my relationship master coaches. Go to my website, drwyattfisher.com, click on coaching, and you'll see the different packages you can sign up for, but they're amazing and they will train you and your partner step by step on how to master conflicts. A couple other comments. One is it's very common for adults' behavior when they're fighting to look almost identical to children. And it's kind of embarrassing if you think about that. And it's true. This is not new, right? Most adults don't outgrow their childish behaviors when they're upset. They'll pout, they'll slam a door, they'll get rude, they'll call a name. Who else does that? Your kids. That's how your kids act. And so, unfortunately, the only thing that looks different between kids and teens fighting and adults is your body size. That's really the only difference. But the actual behavior in the conflict is very similar. And this is how it is, though, in most areas of life. The number one thing we have to learn to control is ourselves. Think about food. You have to learn to control yourself with how you eat if you want to be healthy. Think about exercise. You have to learn to control yourself. If you want to be healthy, you have to learn to exercise, whether you want to or not. It's a self-discipline. Think about money. You have to learn to be self-disciplined around money or you won't have any. Likewise, in your relationship, when it comes to conflict, you have to learn to be self-disciplined in order to have effective conflicts. And it's just like these other areas of your life where you have to learn to control yourself. And also try not to be passive. And so it's easy to feel like, well, we aren't handling conflicts well. We aren't doing a good job here. We don't know how to do this well. Stop saying we and start saying me. Start focusing on your part. What are you doing wrong in conflicts? How are you not responding well? What are you saying that's making the conflicts worse? Start there. Start focusing on your ethics, your integrity, your part of the equation. So think about that. What is your pattern in conflicts? Do you get escalated? Do you get disrespectful in your tone? Do you start calling names? Do you start threatening to end the relationship? And this should not matter what your partner is saying you're doing, because that's a cop out for a lot of people. Well, I wouldn't say this if they wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have done this if they wouldn't have done that. That logic means you are never responsible for your behavior. And that's thinking like a child. So to think like an adult and to start shifting our behavior, it starts with our mindset. The belief needs to become, I am responsible for what comes out of my mouth. I'm responsible for what actions I take in conflict, regardless of what my partner says or does. Because I'm still responsible for me. How I react, how I respond is my choice. Obviously, how my partner speaks and how they behave in a conflict is going to influence how I want to respond. But at the end of the day, it's a choice how I respond. So get away from we and start focusing on me. How can I improve in these conflicts? What are my behaviors I can take responsibility for? And that's where I can start my work. And you may become inspiration for your husband to then start doing the same. So that's one thing I'd highly recommend. The other thing I'd highly recommend is learn my tools. So I have a lot of tools around conflict. There's the bullseye question. There's the full reunite tool. There's the mini reunite tool. And there's the love buckets. All four of those come at conflict in a slightly different way. The bullseye is the daily time where you ask your partner, hey, what's one thing I did right today? What's one thing I could have done better? That's a game changer because you're asking for feedback. Then all you're allowed to say back is, thank you for the feedback. And then you mull over that feedback and you look for the kernel of truth. Okay, that's the bullseye. The full reunite tool is when you have a deep-seated resentment. That's when you say to your partner, hey, I have something I want to talk about with the reunite tool. When would be a good time? And so then you set aside time, you pull up the reunite tool after you're trained on it, and then you work through the steps because that keeps the conversation safe and it reaches all the way to solutions. The mini reunite tool, it's when you have a conflict and an argument, and then you deflood for 20 minutes up to 24 hours, get out of fight, flight, or freeze. Then when you're both calm, you come back together and you pull out the mini reunite tool. And the mini reunite tool is a shorter version of the full reunite tool, but it's designed for conflicts because you're both going to have a chance to go through your experience. The love buckets is where you're going to communicate on all of your top fillers that you need to feel loved and all the top drainers that make you feel unloved. Because what happens over time in a marriage is your partner starts doing more drainers than fillers. So your love bucket gets dry. And when love buckets get dry, claws come out. That's when couples start having conflict because love promotes grace. So the higher your love bucket, the more grace you're going to have toward your partner and vice versa. So the bullseye question, you can go to my website and look for best tips for communication. It's a recent blog post on communication in marriage, and I cover the bullseye there. The reunite tool, you can Google it. Reunite tool, you'll see it at the top. You can read that article. Mini reunite tool, you can Google that one, and you can read the article on how to do it. The love buckets, that's my app, Keep the Glow, that I just talked about in the beginning, KTG. The love bucket model is that app, and that will train you on how to open up your communication. So 3 of those 4 are proactive approaches to conflict. They're asking for feedback. They're proactively working on the resentments because a lot of conflict is from unexpressed frustrations, unexpressed resentments. And so that's why 3 of the 4 tools that I teach on conflict are proactive. They're not reactive. They're not in response to conflict. They're independent of conflict, but it gives you a chance to talk through what you're feeling so nothing is building up. Then the mini reunite tool, that's the one tool that's in reaction to a conflict. So sounds like you guys don't have tools. Look up those tools that I described. Try them on your own. If you find them difficult to do on your own, definitely work with one of my coaches. That's what they're there for. They're there to train couples on these tools until you gain proficiency because the tools are tricky to do on your own up front. Normally, you need a third party to train you on them and to be helping you with them as you're gaining the reps. You're putting in the reps to learn how to do it right so that eventually you can do it on your own. So try it on your own first. If it doesn't go well, definitely work with one of my coaches. Go to my website, click on coaching, sign up for one of the packages, and they will train you and help you so that you can start working through these resentments and these conflicts. Because what you're saying is scary. And what you're saying is what most couples feel, which is if we keep fighting like this, I don't want to be in this marriage much longer. That's how most of us feel because fighting is horrible. No one likes to fight. And if you like to fight, you have problems. So most people feel that. So learning how to manage conflicts well is one of the top skills you need to be cultivating to have a successful marriage. Thank you for listening to the Dr. Wyatt Show. If you haven't already left a review of this program, I would really appreciate it. The reviews tell me that this podcast is helping, and it tells the podcast platform that people are finding it helpful so they can raise it higher so more couples can find it. For my free masterclass on 4 steps to improve your relationship, go to the show notes. I'll leave a link right there, and it's about a 30-minute video presentation that I provide on 4 steps to improve your relationship. It's free. Again, go to the show notes, click the link, and you can sign up for it. Now remember, your marriage is alive. So if you care for it and nurture it, it will grow. But if you deprive it and neglect it, it will wilt and die. The choice is up to you. Take care.